All right, here's another video that deals with angles, but this time what I'm going to talk about is two special types of pairs of angles. First type would be something called complementary angles. And complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. And again, excuse me, if you were to look at this picture right here, we call this A, B, C, and D. Some people only see two angles in this picture, but there are actually three. You have angle ABD, that's the one that starts at A, goes to B, and then to D. And you also have angle DBC. That's the one that starts at D, goes to B, and then to C. And that's the two angles most people normally see. Now, the third angle that a lot of people don't see is this angle that goes from angle ABC, from A to B to C. And angle ABC is a 90-degree angle because it's that L shape. So these two angles are complementary because if you put them together, if you go this far and then if you go this far, then you wind up with the whole 90 degrees. So what you're really saying here is that the measure of angle ABD plus the measure of angle DBC equals 90 degrees. Now, what happens a lot of time when you talk about complementary angles, you know one of them and want to try and find the other. By the way, this is the first time we're doing math computation since we started talking about all this geometry, okay? Because there is a way to calculate one angle if you know the other. And you say, how would you do that? Well, if I was to tell you that the measure of angle DBC equals, say, I guess about 48 degrees, that would be this one right here, okay? And I wanted to find the measure of angle ABD. What I'm saying is, what plus 48, because that's what the angle DBC is, what plus 48 degrees equals 90 degrees? Again, how could you find out what plus 48 degrees equals 90 degrees? Well, think of an easier example. If you and your friend have $10 together, and you know your friend has $3, or you know you have $3, you don't know what your friend has. But if you know you have $3, and you say, well, how much does my friend have? Well, if you know you have $10 altogether, and you have 3, how could you find out how much your friend had? Wouldn't you subtract 3 from 10 and say they had 7? So that's the same thing here. We know that one of the angles is 48, and we know altogether it's 90. So if I want to find out what the other angle is, I have to subtract 48 from both sides. This cancels, giving me x, and this will give me an answer here of 48 degrees. So, how do you find one complementary angle if you know the other? You take the one you know and subtract it from 90, and it'll tell you the one you don't know. Okay? Because these two together are complementary, so they have to add up to equal 90. And 42 plus 48 does equal 90. Now, we have a second type of pair angles called supplementary angles. And supplementary angles are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. And again, remember, 180 degrees was a straight line, because a straight line goes half a circle. So if you would take out of this straight line and put a ray shoots out like this, say this is X, this is Y, this is Z, and this is W. Okay, again, there are two angles that are formed. Angle WXY, that goes from here to X to Y, and angle YXZ, because it starts at Y, goes through X to Z. So you have these two angles, and those two angles together do add up to 180 because they make a straight line. So you see, if you go this much, that's how much angle WXY opens, and then you go this much, that's how much angle YXZ opens, and if you put that together, you get a half a circle, which is half of 360, which is 180 degrees. Now again, if I know one angle, how do I find the other? Well, say I knew that the measure of angle WXY equaled 106 degrees. Then how could I find the measure of angle YXZ? You should know that now, because if I know one of them is 106 and I want to find the other, what would I have to do? The same thing I did with complementary angles. Subtract from the total. But don't subtract from 90, because supplementary angles don't add up to 90, they add up to 180. So subtract the one you know from 180, and that'll tell you the one you don't know. If you borrow, you get 74 degrees. And you can check your answer by adding the two angles, and if they add up to 180, then you know you did it right. So again, this is the first time that I'm asking you to do some actual math computation, but it's pretty easy math computation. It's just subtracting. And again, if it's complementary angles, you subtract from 90. If it's supplementary angles, you subtract from 180. By the way, this usually does not cause people much trouble unless they make a careless mistake subtracting, which, by the way, the most careless mistake subtracting is if you forget to borrow and cross it out and make it one less. But really, where people have the most trouble is they know one of these adds up to 90 and one adds up to 180, but they mix them up. They say, oh, complementary add up to 180. No, they add up to 90. Supplementary adds up to 90. No, they add up to 180. So if you want an easy way to remember which one is which, just think about the fact that in your alphabet, doesn't C become before S? And as far as value goes, doesn't 90 come before 180? So the letter that comes first in the alphabet goes with the number that comes first as you count starting at 1. So this is the smallest number, and this is the earliest in the alphabet. So C goes with 90, S goes with 180. And again, if you mess them up, then you'll get them all wrong. Now again, I think you have a whole topic in here, I think it's topic 15, is on nothing but finding complementary and supplementary angles. So I think now, if you were struggling with it before, you shouldn't struggle now. And by the way, you should be able to answer all five section topics and get 100% on all of them. By the way, since I didn't get this video to you until Friday, these will not be due until next Wednesday.